Alright, Lesson 9, Spill Control. Introduction. In 1992, the federal cabinet, with the compliance with the Act of the Woods Path, did away with the federal government's claim of the sovereign immunity. In less than 2 years, the Army incurred with the $10 million in fine with the penalties based on the violation resulting from decades of old sites. All petroleum officers should be fully aware that they be entitled to environmental consideration. You should be aware that whenever the discussion happening with the involved with the petroleum and other hazardous material, you should stress the importance of environmental protection. Environmental consideration introduction. We direct the environmental consideration following several of the guidelines will specifically accomplish this. If the spill has been occurred, immediately take the following actions. Be able to define with the action of the quantity of the petroleum product of 5 or over 5 gallons quantity any other hazardous waste. Ensure safety. Evacuate the area of the necessary type of the spill. Take the precaution in the detail of the material or safety issue of the material of the spill. The proper spill. Use proper personal protective equipment. Extinguish smoking materials and other small source of ignition. Turn on power with the fire that is possible to ventilate area that stop the flow. If possible, to shut off the valve with the drum of the drums upright. Do not take with the unnecessary risk, but stop the flow of the getting hurt with the contaminated. If you become the contaminated shower, the chamber, the clove, as soon as possible. Containing the spill. In the spill by the throwing of the absorbent, the floor, sweep it on them. Make the dam to keep the flow from spreading further. Do not let the storm drain or the other waterways contained with this non-pop diverting the flow to prevent the spill from entering in any water source, including the drain. Control traffic. Do not let the other driver that walk with the other who spill the use the common sense of the call with the help of the rooms. Palpable report and spill. The report the spill with the use repeaters. Sound the alarm to give them more verbal warning. Have that someone else call the fire department the spill if something cannot handle. Immediately report the spill in any hazardous material with any other petroleum product, regardless of the quantity. ECO. The event with the reportable spill. Seeing the instrument person in charge will copy the material safety data sheets involve the emergency response personnel. Clean up. If the spills occur with the concrete asphalt, you should be absorbed all of it with a absorbent dirt and scoop of the contaminated material to put into the container with a hazardous waste contaminated absorbent dirt. Check the ECO for the proper disposal. When storing transportation issue when they are using petroleum products, you should always consider the spills to minimize the likelihood of the spills. Be aware of the cause of the spill. Natural earth, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods cause considerable low special structural damage. Mechanical leaking valve with a broken pipe with a damaged structure. Tangle that preventive maintenance. Checks over the human error, careless lack of the training, mistake with the props, or the training, the update with the standard optimization procedure, triggered event, and one of occurs, covering to take it all above. Best way to combat spill is to prevent, identify petroleum stores, to prevent, prior to the as the base, the type of the fuel, with the quantity of the fuel, frequency of the transfer, the proximity of the high impact area, for example, the waterways, human habitation, protect the area, the establish the effective the standard optimization, one of the clears and four for the intent, the president should maintenance checks over the understand the procedure to follow the spill with the curve now spill know your spill response plan, train employ with continue update training, federal laws impact with the petroleum and water operation, clean water act require the NPDES for the permit to show up the waters from a point so for the require the point of the NCP provide the response plan to catastrophic spill OPA with the 1990 harmful quantity with the consider the public health of the water fair environmental of the United States apply the inland coastal seawater as far as the 200 miles resource conservation recovery act regulates management hazardous waste includes FFC with with remove the waiver of sovereign immunity for the federal facilities comprehensive environmental response compensation liability act established a non-priority lift to clean up most severely contaminated with long-term contaminated site provides the DERP the other law that they most give the state to implement the law that can impose the most string of the requirement the most string of the requirements apply the armed forces within host nation must comply with the host nation requirements again with the most string of the requirements apply defensive energy supply center defensive energy supply center integrate with the material management whole fuel cell the defensive energy supply center stocks position around the defensive fuel supplies program defensive fuel supply center will be fund environmental compliance costs within such environmental related costs. Environmental guide with the fuel terminal is excellent. Restore with the fuel handler to outline with the emergency response procedure of the discover the environmental consideration show the petroleum handling storage to provide the directory of the state agencies. 4. Spill prevention control countermeasure plan under provision of the CWA installation with which store any significant fuel other than hazardous waste as required with the spill prevention control countermeasure plan. The spill prevention control countermeasure plan identifies the potential spill site, identify fuel storage locations, and the quantity of the type of the fuel stored at each of the areas which could affect the spill curve of the measure and play with the prevent spreads of the spill. The plan predicts the direction of flow, the rate of the flow, the total quantity will be discharged of each of the site. Must be certified registered professional engineer installation. Spill contingency plan. The installation spill contingency plan identify the resource of the procedure for the spill curve. The installation ISOC is specified by the installation spill contingency plan ISOC. They coordinate with the director of the Army control cleanup of the efforts to spill. The provision of the IRT they are specified. They include the composition response with the function training plan. Annual training is required. Federal law agencies impact the spill control chain of the command monitor the spill containment cleanup procedure. The chief figure 9-1 with the chain of the command. The President National Response Center, the National Response Single Point with the Contact Pollution Incident Report located in the United States Coast Guard, the National Response and coordinated the national plan of prepared that can be activated emergency response team established for the National Contingency Plan, Regional Response Team, that membership parallel to the National Response Team, along with the state and local representatives of the team of the 13 separate regions that correspond with the federal region of Alaska, Oceania, Pacific, Caribbean. Incident specific team formed the same team of the activated for response. On-scene coordinator pre-designated to remove the regional representative of the federal government may oversee the contaminant cleanup effort for the OC. On-scene coordinator can bring on the additional resource to take over the cleaning operation, initiate litigation against polluters if necessary. All right, the U.S. Coast Guard provided the on-scene coordinator with the water-based spill for the Environmental Protection Agency of the on-scene coordinator for land-based spills. Membership of the National Response Team included the representative of the following agencies: Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Energy, Agriculture, Department of Defense and Defense Interior, the Department of Labor, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Nuclear Regulatory, Commercial and Emergency Management Agency, the United States Coast Guard, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, the Department of State, General Services Administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Chair of the National Representative of the team of the Environmental Protection Agency, representative of the Vice Chair of the U.S. Coast Guard, representative during the period of activation, Chair of the member of the agency of the on-scene coordinator, National Representative of the Transport Team that assisted with the developing the National Exercise Program and provided the expertise for this particular incident. Or steps and spill response. For any of the spill, the first step of the top spill, upon the detection of the property authority should be notified of the emergency response plan should be activated and spill resources when identified and stopped and check with the step of the mix containing spill with the contaminated method of the intent with the clear leave to keep the spill with the spraying with the clean with the third step is to clean up the spill with the fourth step of the remediation restoration of the site of the field and the final step of the disposal of the waste. Spill on the lands. Determine when the area, the risk of the direction of the spill would flow with what contamination device that the procedure will be needed. The following most frequently either the contamination device, the berm, the pellets fixed, and temporary storage over the construct for the concrete block either designed to contain the top of the content of the tank of the plus one extra foot with the overfill with both the berm lines required with the berm fuel for the soaking into the soil. Dikes retaining wall to construct with the anticipated path over the lakes. Spills ditch of the ducts to contain the spill of the fuel area. Curbing placed and transfer point of the air with a relatively small quantity that may be spilled for. The example, the gas station grating allows overfill spillage with accumulation of the tank. For example, the garage. Slop tank to receive the overflow of the fixed air for the designated with the touch for the off-grade fuel for the dirt pan. They use extensively with the equipment during transfer. They operate for the maintenance of the call of the spill of the routine occurred alarms, automatic shut off the single links immediately, particularly if there's underground storage angle. They interstitial leaks between the interior and exterior walls. Improve the method of the sandbagging, straw bales, the dirt, and other absorbent materials contaminated instead of the restricting flow of the spill to prevent additional contamination and enable the cleanup to be more done easily. Most field situations include the POL to be prepared. The minimum carry shovel with non-sparking such as aluminum is recommended. Subordinate the dirt pan with the waste containing the 55-gallon drum that have the dual purpose of community for the dirt pans of waste containment through the initial cover the specialized subordinate with the higher of the cover of the clay pellets for the air much more absorbent and burn more efficiently, relatively less waste. Or contaminated soil that must be removed and disposed of the Aipd EPA regulations. Certain areas that are more difficult than the others to clean the oil penetration. Sandy areas such as beaches, such 56 inches deep, the aluminum soil, the pipelines run through the area with limited access. Heavy equipment such as scraper the bulldozers may be needed. Spills in waters. Studies conducted in California show that most spills occur while ships that are taking out their own fuel supply bunkering. As a result, California requires all ships to boom while the dock is unless we're carrying non-persistent long flash point fuel. Booms are used as doctor one prevent measure that may be in some of the cases must be the contamination of the water critical to cover the spill with the move of the water, making it difficult for the spill to be picked up. All spills can affect hundreds of miles of the coastline within the day. The most frequent use of the contaminated device is the boom that fail the different side of the length of the boom, the base and the downstream of the below the spill to prevent the oil from moving from the current. Several sets for the boom are normally placed above the wave action and current strength that can be periodic if they escape the barriers. Booms are also used to protect the areas from the spill. Time is one of the most critical factors for the cleanup of the oil spill, especially on water. If the petroleum water weathers deteriorates, with the wave of the action, the product will begin with the breakup of the lost light over the ends of the cover. The product will become more viscous and forming a thick mousse. Cleanup of the Aipd regulation method includes skimming the boat, pick up the oil with absorbent and belt oil, squeezed into the container that was subordinate to designed to pick up the petroleum products. Only the cleanup, chemical cleanup, if you the proper, must obtain the proper approval of the EPA. The dispersant, gelling, sinking agent, microbiological organisms actually eat the petroleum product. Burning of the waste disposal wave of the EPA of the requirements of the product contained with the lead of the waste of the must be disposed of the high intensity burning using close incinerator emission of the minimal the resultant ashes. Small of the product leaded waste can be produced is both thoroughly high intensity with the burning usually best method. Landfills expensively hauled with the store. Farming contractor turning sludging into specially lined area with a microbiological organism that expelled out of the process. The bioremediation microbiological organism introduced in the contaminated soil to periodically term the monitored for the recovery. Environmental impact of the spill of Valdez tape of the product with the cause associated with the provision of the survival over impact with the larger spill with the occur with the United States water 11 million gallons with the discover the cleanup taking over the waste for the given and the excellent footage of the foul shorelines and cleanup. Fires of Kuwait in 1991 taped the document of the firefighting with the torch oil well with the Kuwait with the footage include with the polluted air. The highlights include the extent of the footage of the extinguishing of the burning well with the multinational effort involved with the type of the associated with the Persian Gulf War. North Sea Island Terminal will deliberate on 294 million gallons of the worst spill with the Persian Gulf with the pollution separated with the torching of 607 wells. Lesson 10: Quality Surveillance.